Hey guys, what's up? So in this one, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I want to start doing some more like general content on top of the guild bosses, SOS bosses, and that kind of stuff. So today, I thought it might be kind of fun to go over the 6 personas in the exchange shop right now. Do a little bit of like a profile breakdown on each of them, what kind of units they work best with, what they generally do, and then a recommendation on kind of, depending on the situation, if you should buy or pass them. And then at the end, I want to go over a couple of personas that are not in the game yet, but I think are going to be coming in the near future. But I will kind of mark it in the timestamps, and also verbally in the video, I'll tell you when I'm going to go over that stuff. So if you don't want any spoilers on personas that haven't released yet, so I'll make sure to make that clear. But otherwise, I'm going to start this off in no particular order. We're just going to hop into it. All right, so starting it off, we're going to get into it with Bishamontent. I'm sure you guys have seen, if you've watched, any of my or anybody else's guides or fight videos on anything involving Queen, they likely are bringing Bishamontent with them, as I think he is like the best in slot nuke DPS buffer. His passive ability is Tower of Purification, so he increases crit rate 17.5%. When using a skill on a foe, increase target's nuke damage taken 10% per elemental ailment, max 3 stacks for 2 turns. Typically, by the time, you're getting into your max damage turns, like with a Queen team, because Queen is really the only nuke DPS in the game right now, and she will continue to be the only nuke DPS in the game for a very long time. So Bishamontent will always have a home on the Queen team. If you're getting max value out of this passive ability, you're getting 30% nuke damage taken up on an enemy. And if you pair that with something like a Rakunda, a skill that's already a debuff, I always think it's like, if you can pair a passive with another buff or a debuff to kind of like double dip on buffs and debuffs, it's always good. And I think if you have Queen, Bishamontent is basically a must-have. I don't think there's a better nuke buffer. And even if you don't have Queen, but you tend to use her a lot in guild battles, if you borrow a Queen unit, I would still consider getting him, because I don't think a ton of these exchange shop personas, spoiler alert, are like totally necessary. And Bishamontent being as good as he is, I think he is kind of invaluable. So especially if you have Queen, I give Bishamontent a big buy. All right, so the next persona we're going to get into here is King Frost. And King Frost is basically just a big defense buffer and shielder. So his passive, Tundra's Judgment, increases defense 37.4%. After shielding an ally, increase main target's defense 18% or increase ice damage 10% for 2 turns. Both of these benefit Fox. Like I said, he is kind of, I think, tailor-made for Fox. In theory, his signature skill, Snow King's Protection, grants a shield to party equal to 22.8 of user's attack, plus 690 for 2 turns, while shielded, increased defense by 30%. That pairs nicely with his passive. And my recommendation on King Frost is, I would say if you have Yusuke, he can be useful, but frankly, I don't think he's like totally necessary. I think that Mithras in the current game is like as good, if not maybe slightly better than King Frost. King Frost kind of, I would say, not his downfall, but kind of where he takes a hit in usefulness, in my opinion, is that all his buffs are 2-turn buffs, and that kind of diminishes his value a little bit, because you're kind of never really getting into a great flow of skill usage, because you kind of constantly have to switch back into King Frost to start reapplying these buffs. So I think that dings King Frost a little bit, and it doesn't help that I think Mithras kind of does the job, if not equally as well, close to enough, that it's hard to recommend King Frost as like a yes, you must have him, at least with the units that we currently have in the game. And then put on top of this, there is going to be a persona that comes out that I will cover at the end of this video, I think sometime in the near future, probably pretty soon, actually, I would imagine, that I think will end up being kind of one of the better defense buffers in the game going forward. My recommendation on King Frost, if you don't have Yusuke, it's a strong pass. If you have Yusuke, it's a 50-50, but I would probably save my coins and pass. All right, next up we have Melchizedek here. I'll refer to him as Mel. But Mel, he's been in the news a little bit lately, and I don't know if it was 2.1 or 2.2. If you remember the whole fiasco with Mel being bugged out, having to do with his Verdict of Justice, his passive. So his passive increases attack 24.9%. When using a skill, increase bless damage 3% per blessing on party, 2 turns, max 8 blessings, and that's cumulative across the party. Other bless allies receive 50% of this effect. So, bless allies would get 12% bless damage up if you had the max 8 blessings on the team when he uses a skill, which would be Shining Salvation, and Shining Salvation grants bless and increases the skill damage based on the amount of blessings. So it's obviously just playing on like bless. And I think in theory Mel is supposed to be for closer, and I guess in the near future Violet. But if you remember the discourse around this, Mel was like a total skip, and then no one really realized why he was busted, and it was because his Verdict of Justice was doing like, it was supposed to be like 12% or something, but it was like 120%, so they like messed up a number somewhere. And now that he's been kind of reverted reverted to his initial state. He is once again kind of a hard skip, I think. I just don't see a situation, especially if you just run the numbers like flat out, where Dominion's not just outright better than him in every way. And there is a persona that comes out specifically like for Violet, if you were thinking about picking him up for her, that just like is tailor-made for Violet and will likely be much better than Mel. So I think Mel is pretty easy pass. Obviously, when I say buy or pass, it does depend on your account, depends on like what you want to do. I own all these personas, one, because I make the videos and I want to have everything just to test with, and two, because I like collecting stuff in these games. But yes, Mel will also probably get a pass for me. All right, so next on the list is Chernobog, and Chernobog's an interesting one because he's obviously getting play right now. At least I've used him in some of my Mesa teams. His Deathly Silence passive increases ailment accuracy by basically 35%. Nightmare decreases ailment resistance 10% and defense 7% for 2 turns. Increase physical damage taken 6% for foes with Nightmare. Inflict 1 more stack every 3 times foe takes physical damage, max 3 stacks. So if you let this stack up, you can get a little bit, a nice kind of physical damage boost. And then obviously his Verdict of Agony is what's inflicting the Nightmare, so you do have to act with him. He doesn't just like get put on passively or whatever. So obviously Chernobog is kind of, I think, created to be like the Mesa persona. But I'll be honest with you, I think as we've kind of gone on, when this started, I kind of didn't really understand why Chernobog wasn't like his best in slot. I didn't really see a lot of people talking about it. I thought kind of his kit lended itself really well to Mesa, and obviously that's kind of what they intended. But as you actually get in there and you get some like practical use in with Mesa, I actually think Dominion is just like a overall better persona. I think Chernobog takes a little bit like too much investment in terms of like, I don't know. I think there's just like better use cases where you could just use other buffs and kind of be better off. Chernobog does provide some value to him. I don't think he's like totally useless. Obviously, if you don't have Mesa, this is a hard skip. But if you do have Mesa, I'm going to lean towards pass. All right, so here's a fun one. So here's Yoshitsune. And Yoshitsune is interesting because his passive, Victory Foretold, increases crit damage 34.9%. At start of battle, gain 1 Gorilla. When dealing damage with unique skill, 30% chance to gain Gorilla, which increases attack 7% per stack, max 8 stacks. For 2 turns, at 8 stacks, increase unique skill crit rate 10%. And then Hasutobi, signature skill, deals physical damage to all foes equal to 15% of attack, 8 hits. Increased damage 5% for each foe up to 15%. So Yoshitsune, if it was not blatantly obvious, is a great wonder DPS persona. So with Yoshitsune, my advice would be he is basically going to be the persona, at least the persona that I'm aware of, for the wonder DPS bosses going forward. So I know we've used like Byakko, we forget what the other guy's name is, but with the spear. But going forward, it's going to be Yoshitsune. For the next Wonder DPS boss, you will see me make guild boss guides with Yoshitsune. He will be the guy. Bottom line is he's a strong guy. All right, and then we move into the last of the 6 personas available in the shop currently, and it is one that I find very interesting. So this is Lilith. Her passive is Allure of the Night. She increases attack 29.1% if using Ice, Wind, or Curse skills. Increased damage dealt 20% and decreased damage taken 7% for 2 turns. When unique skill evolves, the opponent's attribute damage greatly increased skill damage and adds 10% pierce. So I think what makes Lilith interesting is that she is, I believe, currently the only almighty persona in the game. And so there was discussion this week with Mesa, if you wanted to buy Lilith and bring her to then boost the almighty damage on Mesa's bleed, would that be good? And I think a bunch of people ran it, and for the most part, almost everyone I saw that ran it confirmed that it's worse than just running a physical persona. And so outside of that use case, which is already about as niche of a use case as you could get, I very diligently looked for a reason to get Lilith other than to just have every persona, and I could not find it. Like, even moving into like light spoiler territory, Akechi, who is not released yet, is an almighty unit, and I don't even think she would see play there because her play is not on almighty, it's on Ice, Wind, or Curse, and there's just better. Like, it's just such a weird kit to me. I don't really understand it. So this is the easiest pass I've given out so far, unfortunately. She's the only persona I don't personally own yet. I will buy her because I want to complete the compendium. This is going to be like a hard, I'll just wait until I know I have so many coins that like they're overflowing and I can just spend them recklessly and not have to worry about it. But Lilith is a hard pass. And that is the 6 personas that are in the game. So now I am going to move over to a couple of personas that are coming in the near future that I think could be useful and kind of what characters I think they're going to be useful with. If you have any interest in maybe a little bit of future proofing, a little bit of future planning on how many coins you're going to need for what, feel free to stick around for that. If you don't want to see any spoilers, no worries. You can hop out right now. All right, so we're going to go through these kind of quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time on these because obviously they're not out yet. And I'll probably do like a separate video, you know, maybe in a few months once we have a bunch more personas released. But first one I want to go over is Shiva, who is going to be like a Psy debuffer. It seems like this could be a useful persona for, say, a Haru who is coming out, sometime in the near future. Obviously, this is not, I'm not going to make any like declarations like buy or don't buy from this, because obviously I want to play the game before I recommend you spending your limited currency on anything. Next on the list is Neon, and Neon, I think I'm saying that right, I have no idea, is actually an event persona, I believe. I'm not 100% positive. Well, actually, it says it right down here, so yes, I am positive. From the CNY event. So you can, like, earn Neon from, like, doing CNY event stuff, I think. As far as I know, I've heard just a content creator say that before, and it says event down here, so I assume there's some kind of interplay with the CNY event. I don't know how they're going to do the CNY event, so who knows when this is actually going to come out, because I think CNY is in February? January, February. It's like somewhere early in the year. Might be a little bit later than that, but yeah, Neon is like a really good defense shredder. Now here's a persona that I think is going to get a lot of play just like reading this. So almost like, you know what he is? He's almost like Narcissus and Norn combined on steroids is how I would describe Vishnu. And is decreasing all foes defense 48% when refreshing or inflicting wind swap for 2 turns. So already just like massive defense shred just based off the passive. This is just like, forget a wind team. This is just going to be useful all around. This is the persona I was talking about when I said that Mel was useless. This is, I don't know how to say this, Sorosha. So basically, he's getting like these God's Ear stacks. When allies use highlights, he's getting these God's Ear stacks. And then when he uses his signature skill, he consumes, which I imagine is Absolute Obedience, he consumes all the God's Ear stacks and increases blessed damage taken, additionally increases defense down if you have all 3 stacks, and then increases that foe's highlight damage taken by 30% for 1 turn from the actual skill itself. If you don't know anything about Violet, she, just from what I've heard, she basically plays all off her highlight damage. Is kind of where all her damage comes from, or most of her damage comes from. So this persona, you could see, has really strong interplay, I imagine, with Violet, and I imagine this persona is going to get released with Violet. And then this is the persona I mentioned in the King Frost portion. Sandalphon increases defense 43.6 when Sandalphon is present. Increase all shielded allies defense by 42%. Needs 25% of this effect when not present. So basically just like a party-wide 25% defense buff, not even on the field. And then obviously the signature skill, considering there's a shield play here, you would imagine it grants shield, which it does. And then increases the main target's damage when they have shield by 20.4% for 2 turns. Just like a much better version of King Frost, if you ask me. And I believe Sandalphon is coming soon. It says KR 2.3.2, maybe with like Cherish, because Cherish will probably lead Fox back into rotation, I would imagine. I'm going to try and cut this down because the recording is probably way longer than this video is going to end up being. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, something a little bit different. If you have ideas, I'm not really good at making these kinds of videos because I don't know what people find interesting or useful. So I kind of just ramble a lot as if I don't do that anyway. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. You took something away from it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for videos similar to this in kind of more of like the general vein of content for this game, let me know. I'm happy to make it. I'm going to do character guides too, starting with this next patch. And as always, thank you for watching. I will see you on the next one, and have a good one.